You all know Thrips parvispinus. They're found on these nice little plants, Anthurium. Lots of tropicals popping up in Gerbera. So managing them is really hard. You can't only use biocontrol. You need a layered approach and being very diligent in your strategy because they can they do a lot more damage than your typical Western flower or onion in that they change the growth of the plant, as you can see in that bottom picture. So using your dips, sprenches, soil biocontrol agents, and mass trapping. With mass trapping, I know this is a sensitive topic because a lot of growers don't like it because of the labor and maybe the way their greenhouse is set up, but it is an effective tool in IPM. The fifth layer for parvispinus is before plants are spaced, spraying Suffoil-X and Beauveria or Metarhizium before the biocontrol is implemented. And then releasing Orius in propagation and your long day or day neutral crops because Orius can go into diapause. They're still a bit effective in short days, but more effective in your long days. So releasing them in propagation is helpful. They can be difficult to establish, but implementing banker plants is helpful, and releasing Ephesia or Citrotroga eggs just to get them established in the crop. And then also monitoring to make sure that they're staying within the crop is good. And then in addition to that, broadcasting Swirskii and putting out sachets. Swirskii is nice because they go after the two larval stages as well as a prepupa in the soil. So they're, or if the pupae are on the leaves or where they can access them, it's a nice bio for parvispinus. And then when you were to release your sachet, let's say, establishing your Swirskii in the crop with the supplementary feed, like a feeder mite, it allows them to better adapt to the environment. Once they exit the sachet, they have something to feed on before they find the thrips. At the end of the slides, if anyone's wondering about rates and stuff, we can discuss that. I'm not going to go through rates. Okay, so another layer, in addition to your Orius or your Swirskii, you can introduce predators for hotspot treatments like green lacewing, Anystis. Anystis is quite expensive, but it's an effective biocontrol agent. And then, so then basically your last layer, when your populations exceed your thresholds, hopefully towards the end of your crop cycle, using sprays to decrease the parvi. Starting with less harmful sprays to help your bios, like Ryman and Ference, they're relatively soft. And starting with only hotspot sprays is beneficial. There's other more harmful chemicals like pylon, or some growers use Avid, but that's basically last case scenario because they have long residuals and they're going to stay in your greenhouse for about at least 4 weeks and harm your bio program for other crops coming in. Does anyone have any tips, like what's working in their greenhouse as when it comes to parvi, what's not, and if there's any other options that I haven't mentioned? This is a collaboration, so anybody? Yes, Rose?
I'm wondering if you could maybe tell us a bit more about different crops like different, a biocontrol program against parvispinus in pepper would be very different than in Anthurium, for example.
Yeah.
Do you have any pointers for that?
Chad's the pepper expert, but it can be a bit hard to establish like Swirskii in some tropical crops. So like Ishtiaq said, there's a lot of different ways of doing things. These are strategies that can be implemented and also adjusted in all different crops, because every single grower is going to have different strategies that work for them with your temperature, your humidity, the types of plants that you're growing. So yeah, let's say if Swirskii is not working in your Schefflera or something, then implementing the Orius or doing your sprays and maybe another predator that will combat that. Just kind of shifting it in a way to work for you, or potentially doing an extra spray like a ference that will work on the parvi. It's going to change every time, right? And you're going to assess it, and then you're going to develop a new strategy for the next time. And then even like talking to the growers that you know who are growing the same crops. Hey, what are you doing in your Anthurium, or is helpful. I don't have as much experience in the peppers, but so Chad, do you know what they're doing for parvi?
I really haven't seen a lot of parvi
in the peppers.
Mostly anything that we do with the western flowers is already affecting the parvi. So
Yeah.
it's kind of going hand in hand with western.
Yeah, okay. I know in veg crops, they do a lot of broadcasts instead of the sachets because it works for them. It's hard to maintain the high humidity in the veg crops to do the sachet. They don't last as long, but...
Rose, in terms of vegetables, what we have seen is strange behavior when there are multiple species of the thrips, parvi and western flower thrips. The bios act very differently. And other than that, even strange enough, even it is not only pepper specific, even it is cultivar or whatever you can call it, variety specific within the peppers. So certain peppers, they attract parvi versus onion thrips or echinothrips and within bell peppers. And then people, when it comes to it, though I think it is your research or having Swirskii and cucumaris. So what happens that cucumaris, if they are putting in the beginning and Swirskii they are putting in the later stage, your cucumaris becomes the food for your Swirskii for a later stage. So if you are putting Swirskii when it is warmer, but you have been establishing cucumaris, and then Swirskii comes, temperature rises, more favorable for Swirskii, and we have seen that whether who is sporting what, either Swirskii is sporting cucumaris or cucumaris is sporting other way around. But in some cases, not all the cases, we have seen establishment get better. Yes.
Have you tried like different rates of applying bios? Does that make a difference or not with the parvi? Like I remember years ago, we went by, we couldn't get it chemical for my work would actually we put 3 times the rate up front in a very 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and then we caught it, rib on it, and then we started shaving the numbers as we monitor actually.
Yeah.
Did we try anything like that, like front load more, like double or triple the virus?
I would agree with that. Yeah, with bio rates, there's different rates on a preventative approach and curative approach. So that would be, you would have used a more curative approach and it worked for you guys. So then, like you said, what in your scouting or your observing of the thrips levels, once they go down, you know that you can maybe dial back a little bit.
Have anybody tried that?
Yeah, so the logic behind it that we have seen, First of all, let me tell you just the foundational concept. The bios that you are producing in your crop, they are 100 times better than any company can give you the bios. So the bios that are multiplying in your crop are 100 times better than any bios that you can receive from any company. You got it? So now, if you are using double the rate or 4 times the rate or 5 times the rate, what are you trying to achieve? You are trying to achieve 2 things. Number 1, you starve them to death, or you offer them only Thrips parvispinus or parvi or Thrips this. Hey, this is the only food. Because you are so many in numbers, all the alternative sources of food are not enough for you, and here you go. You got it? Then you are doing a selection process. Some of them, they will not like it and die without eating it. But some of them, they will start eating it or tasting it. And then slowly, when they would have the second generation, more of them will eat on them. And then they have a third generation. I did back in 1997, we had a sugar cane. I'm just giving you the concept. We had a sugar cane borer. Its name was infestations. And infestations, what happened that existing species of Apentales flavipes was not establishing on the sugarcane borer. In Thailand, it was establishing on corn borer. What we did, we took corn borer braconids or Apentales flavipes, and we hand fed them sugarcane borer. It took us 3 years, but we had massive benefit for entire country. We were able to control infestations sugarcane stem borer on 60,000 acres in Pakistan using our rearing method by changing their performance to that particular pest. So again, it is a long journey that has to be done, but slowly, if the greenhouse growers are doing it, and I would encourage Rose that any greenhouse, like we trained our growers, for example, some Orius that is establishing in low light condition for you, give it to us. We will multiply and give back to you. And if you have some, talk with you. Okay. So if you have any super beneficial insect, that is working in your conditions, after putting them in quarantine for some time in our facility, we can multiply for you. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I did want to mention there is recent research that says Heterorhabditis bacteriophora nematode is really good against parvispinus. So that's an option when you're doing your nematode sprenches. Like trying that if your other nematodes aren't working as well. Testing out the different nematodes is good. Yes?
Can you spell that for me, please?
I got it here. Heterorhabditis bacteriophora.
Only if I have artificial intelligence, I can capture that fast.
Yes, Jess.
If you're spraying or sprenching nematodes, are they only going to be useful against thrips in the soil, in the life stage of the soil? Or?
So spraying, it'll be when they're on the leaves. Soil-borne would be your pupae. So sprenching, they pupate about 1 inch into the soil, so you want to take that into consideration when you're sprenching. And let's say, for example, it'll depend on what you're growing too, right? Whether you're doing plugs or pots or different things, it'll depend, or even your system. Let's say you don't have booms to do your sprenches. You can do it with a hose, or you can do it with your spray. There's all different ways of doing it. Another thing I did want to say with dunks, let's say you're not getting cutting, so you can't necessarily do a dunk, or you can't dunk your plug. You can do heavy sprenches on your plug trays to get a similar effect, making sure it's you're spraying them good coverage. You're getting good coverage.